Back again, Dog Days, the summer edition of Ask Mike, joined as always by Mike Irwin. Mike, in the meat of the summer here, things are just getting rolling. Lot to get to, but man, what a celebratory day for the Arkansas track and field team. Raising yet another flag, and that is where we begin this week. Our very first question from Johnny Mac fan, who asks, why isn't Arkansas's national championship in track and field getting more attention? It's the most productive sport on campus by a long shot, and yet the media and fans ignore it. Johnny Mac, I don't know what you're watching, man. We led the show with it on Friday, got a lot of attention.
Hayden Herrera was all over it.
Just over the track, literally moments ago as we're recording this, talking to Doug Case. So I think they get a lot of attention, but hey, if there were more fans in the stands, Mike,
well, part of the problem is that on all of those nights, the climatic things were happening fairly late, but they didn't happen so late that we couldn't get them on.
Yeah.
So, and I think there were other things going on. People were watching other things. Look, we can't control what fans do.
And the internet never stops. There's a lot of coverage of it on the internet.
But I promise you there was coverage all over the place, and it was really fun to watch that. I was at home watching it, and it really reminded me a lot of how things used to be when John McDonnell was the coach here and winning all those national championships. In that, a lot of things went wrong for the men. People that were supposed to win didn't win. Relay team dropped a baton, sprint relay team. I don't know if they would have won, but they would have gotten a lot of points in that event. They get no points. Jelani Watkins, no points in the 200.
And by 6 1,000ths of a second.
And
very, very
finished
close.
third in the 100, where he had won indoors. So they're losing points there. But John always said you got to get as many people qualified as possible because you never know what they will do when they get to the meet. And what he always counted on was when somebody didn't do what they were supposed to do, somebody else would. And that's what happened in this meet. Now, they got all the way to the last event, which is traditionally the 4x4, 4 laps around the track, passing the baton. They could have lost it to Tennessee if Tennessee won it and Arkansas didn't score points. And it was the other way around. Arkansas, I think, finished third. Tennessee was behind them, so they end up winning by 7 points. But that's a pretty thin margin. But give them a lot of credit because they won the team title without a single win. None of their athletes won an event. They didn't win any of the relays. They won it without a single victory by scoring a lot of second and third points. And, I mean, that's tough to do. But it's a strategy that John used a lot of times because you get there. This is not automatic. People do not. What they don't realize about the Nationals is you go through a qualifying. So if especially the distance runners, they have to run, and then if you're on a relay team, they have to do it again, and then maybe the qualifying in relays, and then you have to run the finals, and you have to run the final in your event. These people are a lot of times exhausted by the time they get to the big event that they're supposed to win. So the idea was that if this happens, you've made up for it by finishing second, third, or whatever in all these other events, and you can still win the team title. That hasn't happened a lot. Arkansas hasn't won outdoors an outdoor title since 2002. I couldn't believe it was that long.
03, 02, something like that. Now, they had a couple that were taken away.
They did.
Due to some violations.
But the last one
the last acknowledged title
was 2002. I think maybe 2004 they won it and it was taken away because they had used a guy that they determined that he had gotten some help in the summer, and they were real picky back then. Today that wouldn't even that wouldn't even matter.
The NCAA actually used to have some power to it.
Yeah. So they're back up to there are 44 national titles, 44
in men.
In men's track and field, 44, over 50 overall. And this was a fun thing to watch. It really did have the feel of the old days. And Doug Case is interesting. He's 63, I think, and he looks like 43.
Yeah, he's a sprinter, so whatever his age is, looking good for that.
I'm like, he could coach another 10 or 15 years if he's this good. He is now some people thought that he was the only coach to ever win national titles in his first year on the job. There was a track coach at UTEP before John ever came on the scene that did the same thing. He won, I think, a conference title indoor, a conference title outdoor, conference and national indoor and national outdoor. And that was, back in the 70s.
They're probably still calling it Texas Western back then.
Yeah, well, I don't know. But anyway, he won it at UTEP. But John started winning Triple Crowns, which is, we'll see if he can do this, because you got to add cross country. And they didn't win it in cross country this year. But that's amazing. And I think he's going to win a lot more the way he's got it rolling. It feels like the old days.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear, though, the tone of the sport. Chris Bucknam, friend of the show, shout out to Coach Buck there. He's been really outspoken, like, hey, we can't lose the Olympic sports. And if there's just all this emphasis put on football and basketball, some really proud traditions out there, like some of the Western schools with swimming, like Arkansas with track and field, that could go away. And that would be a bummer if we lose what we have with them now, Mike.
That's absolutely right. And with the way it's getting very competitive now, Oregon's in there every year wanting to win it. They put the most money into this. That's why they have it out there, because they have more track fans out there. And John got offered that job twice and turned it down twice. But you got to worry about them saying, well, we'll just spend whatever we want on these athletes to get them. And then you got all kinds of SEC schools that are made, Florida and Tennessee.
A&M and LSU.
A&M and LSU, they're all putting on a push. So it's just very difficult. And I'm worried that NIL is going to start spreading to all these other sports the way it has baseball now. Arkansas baseball is hurting right now because of that.
Baseball used to have, perennially top 10 recruiting classes year after year after year, if not even top 5. And now we're starting to see a dip, and you wonder if in baseball that's starting to catch things up.
One of two things is going to have to happen. Either this NIL thing is going to eventually go away with this, whatever they call this thing, Save America Sports, College Sports Act or whatever.
Protect College Sports Act.
Protect College Sports. If they get that passed, maybe that will take some pressure off. But otherwise, Arkansas's boosters, they're going to have to step it up. And the fans, we need better collectives, or you're just going to get washed away.
Yeah, and it's the fan bases out there, the donor bases that are spending the most money, that are the ones that are competing, and then some schools get into this position where they're begging for governance. But as you said, money may be the only way.
It is right now, for sure.
You don't have to like it, but you have to accept it.
It's the way it is right now, for sure.
Next question, number 2 on the week. Batgirl says, when softball was over, I turned my focus to women's track. Way to go, ladies. You were picked 7th and finished 3rd in the nation. Thumbs up to Coach Chris Johnson, the best women's sport on campus. And Mike, as you alluded to, great point there. Unlike the men's team, they were winning individual national titles and relay national titles.
They have been winning, and they just continue to be a good program. But they were just the opposite of the men. They did not have as many people qualified. Therefore, they had to have some people win.
And they did.
And they did. They won the 400 relay, which is a big one. 4x4, they won that. And
the 800.
Then they had a win in the 800. In the 800 meters, Sanu Jallo Lockhart, 800-meter champ, and she set a new record, a new collegiate record. So that was impressive to do that. Again, you're stepping up. You're getting there. You go, we don't have a lot of depth here. We can't score a lot of points in a lot of other events. You got to win. You got to win the 800. We've got to win that 4x4. We don't have a choice. We can't finish 2nd. We have to win it. And they did. They were projected 7th, and they finished 4th.
And congrats to Sanu Jallo Lockhart. I would assume she is going to be an Olympian. Probably, in fact, here coming up in 2028. Maybe some others in there. Jordan Anthony on the men's side we just saw a year ago. Maybe Jelani Watkins. Maybe some of those guys qualify. Follow Hayden Herrera for more on the Arkansas track team. He's sitting here on the office. So have everybody filled in on all things college track and field and even beyond for that matter. Next up, Clark in Clarksville wants to know, when is Silverfield going to sign some named players? He beat out Purdue, Boise State, and BYU for this corner he just got. Plus, the kid is 5'11" and 160. This is not junior college. SEC receivers will eat him up.
Okay, looked into that a little bit, and first of all, I don't think they're bringing him in here to start next year or maybe even the year after that. A little bit of an unusual situation, and they're going to have to do this. Now, they've gotten some 4-stars, and I think they'll get some more before this class is over. But I talked before, when you're in their position, you have to really go out and try to find people that are under the radar, that are good, What they liked about this kid was he has an older brother that was a tight end in the NFL. That's not 5'11", 160. So if he's got a brother that's that big, I think they're looking and figuring, okay, he's going to grow some. But the thing they liked about him was his speed. He ran a 10.600 meters in high school, which is outstanding. So they're basically saying, okay, what do you have to have in the cornerback? You got to have a guy with speed. We can work on the size. We can certainly make him more physical. We think he may grow another inch or two in height. He's going to be good down the road. And in the interview that was done with him, he was open about that. He said, this is why it was a no-brainer for me to come there, because they talked to me about development. They didn't say, hey, come here and we'll play you right away. You're going to be a star, anything like that. They said, you know what your limitations are. You got to develop. You got to get bigger. You got to get more physical, and we will do that for you. And they sold him on it. And this is the kind of kid you don't pay a big bunch of bucks to get them to come here. They come here because you tell them you're going to develop them, and they understand that you're telling the truth. And that's still the part of sports I like the best. So I'm pulling for this guy. In 2 years, I want to see him out there on the field, and then we can come back and talk about it. Yeah, you thought he was nobody.
Mike, there's been a couple exceptions out there to the whole money game aaspect. Indiana, which, by the way, don't get it twisted. Now that's a money school that's spending big time money. But they didn't they didn't go 11-1 that first year under Signetti as a money school.
That's right.
They unearthed the diamonds in the rough. Arkansas is going to see one in one of the biggest games of the year, maybe their pivot game of the year, week 2 against Utah. Never hear about Utah having 5-star after 5-star after 5-star after 4-star after 4-star, but they find a way to make it work. Seems like they win 8, 9, 10 games a year. Then there's the other teams, the Ohio States, the Texas, the A&Ms, the Miamis. They're doing it right now with money. How do you feel about Arkansas's chances finding these diamond in the roughs? Because I know the fan base is a little upset that they look at the transfer portal rankings and they look at the prep rankings and it's like, well, wait a minute, we're just getting a whole bunch of 3-stars here. That's a tough path for Arkansas to take.
Yeah, it is. And there's only one way to do it. If you are where they are right now, and believe me, I guarantee you, Ryan Silverfield knows where he's at. Those coaches on that staff know where they're at. And I think there was an appeal there when he was putting that staff together. I will tell you this is the best staff I've seen at that school, because I've looked at where they've been, what they've done, what they're bringing to the table.
And by far the biggest in volume too.
Biggest in size, but the best. You start looking at your defensive coordinator, your offensive coordinator, and then your offensive lineman, defensive lineman, and you see where these people have been, and you really say to yourself, this is the best staff since maybe, I don't know, maybe going all the way back to Nutt, because I never thought Bielema was just loaded with great coaches. I think that's an overlooked thing. I think there's a big part of success in any sport, but certainly football, because you've got so many coaches on the staff. You got to have a good staff.
Absolutely.
I'm just telling you, that staff was awful last year, and I include Petrino in that. He screwed up. He put all of his eggs in Talon Green's basket. He was convinced the kid had all this talent, and he could somehow coach him into making the right decisions, and he didn't. All the way up to the last game of the year, which I still say, if they had let KJ Jackson start and play that entire game, they would have beaten Missouri. Instead, he had to be fair. He had to be fair to Talon Green, let him play some on senior day, and he gets in there and screws up. So, he's not Arkansas's problem anymore. I've said many times, I don't think he'll make it in the NFL as a quarterback, because at that level, decision-making has to be everything. But I'm just saying, this staff, the one thing I think you'll see is you won't see Arkansas losing games because of screw-ups. If they get beat, it's because the other team is better.
It's a great point, and that is one thing that Ryan has really been known for in Memphis. The clock management, the nuance of the game. And maybe there still is a place out there, Mike, where you can win games on the margins, because Arkansas was close last year. There's just, a mistake here and there.
Yeah, look, this thing turns around so fast if they start winning games. All these people that are sandbagging all over the internet, because, look, it doesn't make any difference what you post on I feel so sorry for guys like Otis Kirk who have to cover the football program for us and who have to put stories up on the internet, because all they ever do is get bashed.
You're just going to lose anyways.
Yeah, you don't know what you're talking about. You're the worst thing. You're part of the problem here, like Otis would be, have something to do with whether they win or lose. But the fans are that burnt out, the ones that post, and I've said this so many times, there are people out there that are still going to remain optimistic. You don't hear from them. Internet people still don't make up, I don't think they make up 25% of the fan base. I think you still got the great majority of people out there that are Razorback fans. They may read the internet, they don't post, because I've talked to too many of them who've told me, why would I want to put something in there and just have people jump all over me? It's just like, they view this as some sort of a back alley fist fight where nobody gets physically beat up, they just verbally beat each other up. You know, you post something and it's just like, come around the corner here, I'm gonna whip you. You know, that's what they do. And there's just a lot of fans that don't want to participate in that.
Now, hopefully Arkansas, Ryan Silverfield, they're taking people behind the woodshed this year. That's really what we want to see. All right, time for our first time out here on Ask Mike. When we come back, Paul Feinbaum making an indirect appearance on the show. That's going to be nice. Back here on Ask Mike and talking some Arkansas football here. A little over a month ago to SEC Media Days, and we were talking about a mainstay whenever it comes to SEC coverage, really one of the biggest names in all of college football media. Mills Palmer asking, what's your take on Feinbaum saying Silverfield is going nowhere this season? He made him sound like Sam Pittman all over again. Got to be honest, I'm not aware of this commentary, but I certainly take it as a valid comment.
Yeah, I don't know that he went that far, but he pretty much was just saying, look, I don't want to make, because he was talking to an Arkansas audience, I don't want to make you guys mad, but I don't see this team going anywhere. I don't even think he predicted where they would finish. I don't think he said they'll be dead last, but he just said, look, he's just in an impossible situation.
They're probably going to be picked to finish last in the conference.
They will.
If not last, like 15th, it's going to be really close.
They'll be picked 16th at SEC Media Days, because I know how the media works. Look, here's the whole, you can wrap it up in a nutshell. Feinbaum doesn't know where they're going to finish. I don't know where they're going to finish. Fans don't know where they're going to finish. You can sit here and talk all you want because it's the talking season. Yep. But talk doesn't do anything. And here's the interesting part. No matter what anybody says all summer long, when you finally get to the real thing, they forget about it. All these people that are negative, that are whatever Feinbaum said, anybody, if Arkansas starts winning, nobody's going to point at them and go, you were really stupid. You shouldn't have said those things. They just drop it and act like it never happened. So that's what'll happen. We'll talk all summer long, yeah, he's this, he's that, blah, blah, blah. And then there will be surprises. I don't know who, it may not be Arkansas, but there will be some teams that do things that people didn't think they would do, and everybody's going to suddenly act like they knew it. And they didn't know it, because if it wasn't that way, we would be bored to death with this stuff. If every year it went exactly as the SEC Media Day people picked it to go every year, it would be so boring. I'm not watching that. It's the same stuff every year.
I think Vanderbilt 1 year ago was picked 13th or 14th in the conference.
Yeah.
They go 6-2 in conference play, finished, I think, in the top 15 in the country.
Look at what's happening in the baseball playoffs this year. And even in the College World Series, there are still surprises.
Troy.
Nobody
West
would
Virginia.
be predicting these teams. And it's the thing that fuels sports for me. Look, I'm not one of these people that just sits at home and if it's not Arkansas, I refuse to watch it. I watch college sports. I will watch a college soccer match before I watch the pro men's sport. I don't care.
Over an NFL game?
Yes. I watch a college game over an NFL. I don't care about pro sports. I've covered the college game for 50-something years. I believe in it. Even with all this stuff that's going on right now, there's still student athletes. I like watching it at that level, and I just enjoy watching. I'm loving the College World Series. I wish Arkansas was there, but it would be more work, and I don't have to work with that now. I don't have to worry about it except answering some questions here. But look, Omaha is fantastic.
It is. It's
if
great.
you,
great event.
I'm just telling you, if you've never been there as a fan, Don't downplay that. If you go there, there's stuff going on all over downtown Omaha. They got all kinds of restaurants and bars and places to have fun. And then when you get inside that stadium, it is a wonderful stadium. The environment is great. You got all those teams. If you're in the media, they've got the best press box I've ever seen. It's awesome. And they've got the way they work it there. They've got rooms down below for press conferences, and they've got rooms for you to work in. So you can come down from the press box and start editing video, run across the hallway and and tape a press conference, then run back and work some more. It's just totally organized the way they've got it.
Well, whenever you say that you're a college guy first, I understand that. You spent, as you said, your entire professional life pretty much around the college game. Do you think people are ignoring too much of the positives around the college game right now, that maybe it's healthier than people think? Because, Mike, we just had one of the most watched NCAA basketball tournaments of all time. There's more interest in the playoff and these bowl games than ever before, and more people are watching that than ever before. Yet all people want to talk about is Brendan Sorsby and quit paying the players, and it's not sustainable, and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I do think there's an issue, and I do think fans are worried about the things that are going on around, but it's not stopping them from watching. And that's because the sport itself, whether it's college football, basketball, baseball, or whatever, or even some of these, softball is getting huge.
Record numbers at the World Series this year. And that was with no Oklahoma.
So people love this. And I think even they love it to the point where the litmus test is, if your team is not competing anymore, if they're knocked out, do you still watch? Come on, you're going to tell me you don't watch the NCAA basketball tournament all the way to the Final Four? You want to see how the team that beat your team did, or your team may have played that team earlier in the year. It may be a conference thing. I want the SEC to win. I don't like these Big Ten schools. Anything like that. People just watch because they like it. And I certainly do. Again, I was watching the College World Series, and I wasn't watching soccer, I promise you.
The rest of the world, though, watching soccer.
I know.
Mike Irwin staying true to his brand.
It was a huge deal. And it was surprising. You know what the most interesting thing about soccer is to me? Okay, we're having it here. So now all these Europeans are coming over here, and guess what they're doing?
Going to Buc-ee's.
They're saying things like, wow, look at this place. I went here, and look at this stadium. They're all talking about
They had a game in Auburn, an exhibition game in Auburn.
And they're all talking about Jerry World. What a place, what a place. And I asked somebody, why do you think they're so surprised? And he said, because all they watch over in Europe is CNN, and CNN tells them how bad America is. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. I don't live in Europe, but that was his take on it. But has been interesting to read these comments where people come over here and go, wow, boy, and it's just some ordinary food place, Wow, I got that
Kansas City barbecue.
Best chicken I've ever had in my life. Going, oh, this is strange.
The United States doing a great job hosting the World Cup. Same with Mexico and Vancouver, Canada, who are also involved in the hosting. Right. And USA Soccer in a great place, 4-1 opener there against Paraguay. That was a very, very impressive show.
They keep winning, it's going to get
huge. It's already huge, and it will only keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Next up will be the game on Friday against Australia. That'll be in Seattle. Next up, Hog Redneck here says, I see where the media recruiting gurus all got together and decided to blow the whistle on Silverfield. He's not nice. He won't play ball with us. I've never seen this before. What's really going on? Is he shooting himself in the foot, or are they whining too much? If I may here, I can't speak for these media recruiting gurus that you're referring to, but Ryan maybe he won't win games on the field, Mike. He's been tremendous at selling the program.
Right.
Getting in front of boosters, getting in front of local media, national media. We haven't had a coach like this at Arkansas, maybe ever, who has been this present in front of a camera.
Yeah. When you start talking about the guys that cover recruiting, look, I got all kinds of respect for those guys. I'm talking about Trey Biddy. I'm talking about Otis. I'm talking about Danny West. I'm talking about Richard Davenport. I've known all those guys for years. They work their tails off. I don't think there's a harder job in the media than trying to follow recruiting because of one basic fact. Theoretically, no coach is ever supposed to talk to you about a recruit, you and the media, until they've signed. But your job is to keep people updated on what's going on before they sign. So you have to get your information from somewhere. And it's sort of been at most places, and I think it's been this way here at Arkansas in most sports in the past, it's kind of a wink-wink thing. Okay, I'm never going to acknowledge that I talked to you, but I'm telling you when this guy that's coming in here, we're going to have him in this hotel down here, and if you show up down there at this time, he's going to come through the lobby, and I'll have somebody sitting there with you, and they'll point him out, and then you go interview him. We can't help you, but you can go interview the guy, and then you've got your story. For whatever reason, from the day he got here, and remember, Silverfield arrived right when the portal thing was going on, right when they were doing high school recruiting. They noticed the difference there. He didn't want to be involved in any of that stuff. Now, why? It could be something as simple as he's gotten burned in the past with some sort of a situation, so Ken Hatfield was like that years ago. He's a nice guy, but he would not deal with you on certain. You couldn't go up to him and say, Coach, come on, tell me, are you going to get this guy or not? I can't tell you that. And he would not deviate from that. So maybe Silverfield's taken that approach. Should they have done what they did, all going public like that? Well, if it pays off, if he gets them to back off a little bit, and I think what they were most concerned about was that they weren't able to see any of these athletes at these camps this camp that's been going on, and they wanted to be able to, you may not go inside, but you can stand outside, and when they come back outside, you can talk to them, and maybe they were, upset about that. So if making this public allows them to get their job done or back where they can do it easier, then maybe it pays off. But here's my advice to all of them, which is worth nothing. If you're in the media and you start complaining about your job, you know how much sympathy you're going to get from the fans? None. It's like, what are you talking about?
Kind of like these football coaches making $5-6 million a year, and they're complaining like, "Oh, we don't have the money to compete," and not much sympathy.
Nobody's going to. People are so mad right now at what's going on with Razorback football. They're actually blaming the media for why Arkansas is not succeeding. Come on. I mean, you can, I guess, get mad to say somebody's saying that Pittman was a good coach when he wasn't or something like that, but that didn't cause them to lose. But that's what they're doing. Otis just gets it all the time. People say, you're the reason we can't recruit. What, like what, he goes up to a recruit and says, don't come here? Come on. Otis is one of the hardest working guys. I first knew him maybe around 2000, maybe before that.
And loves the life, man. He lives it.
He came up out of Mena, and the first thing I noticed about this guy was he wasn't just going up to coaches and say, hey, here you're recruiting. He'd get his own list, and he would go out and watch these guys play high school football. He found Clint Sterner. I'm telling you, it's an incredible story. He was down in Houston looking at another player, and he was watching this game, and this other team had a quarterback that was just amazing. So he goes and starts asking, what's up with this Sterner guy? And they said, well, he was a defensive back last year, and they converted him his senior year. So he's really playing his first year as a quarterback. And Otis comes back and tells Danny Ford, you better bring this guy in and take a look at him. And they did. And then Houston Nutt was the one that was benefited from that. Yeah. And that's all because of Otis. Otis doesn't hurt recruiting, he helps recruiting. But he's not going to, anybody else in doing that job is never going to get any sympathy from these people on the internet. They hate your guts. Unless Arkansas wins, and then maybe they'll loosen up a little bit. I don't know.
Otis Kirk, keep doing your thing, man. Big Laker fan, probably having a little bit of a tough time right now. More to get to here on Ask Mike. Coming up next, the most talked about topic in all of college sports, one of the most talked about topics in sports. What is going on with the Texas Tech situation and Brendan Sorsby? That's coming up next. Back here on Ask Mike and diving into a very, very hot debate. Brendan Sorsby is the topic. WV Hog fan. Hey, that's a Big 12 conflict there. Maybe he's got a vested interest in this one. If Sorsby is allowed to play, will this open the door where any athlete in any sport can bet on their game? If I may here, I would say no, because in pro sports, they have rules. They have a union. They're viewed as employees. But in college sports, apparently there are no rules.
Well, if they were to allow this to happen, I think it's just the death of college, because that's the one rule that's
at least just the death of the
nobody
NCAA.
has crossed the line on that, because the common sense. And look, the thing that has amazed me is how all these people out here are trying to justify it, and it's not just Texas Tech fans. They're acting like, no, come on. How come they're not doing where he was before? How come they're not punishing them? It doesn't matter where he was before. It matters that you, Texas Tech, have this guy on your roster and you're paying him and you know what he did, and you're just going to say, well, but we're going to help him.
And you're acknowledging that he still has a problem by calling him an addict that needs help.
We're going to get him some help, but we're going to be nice about this. Look, if they allowed that, then everybody could do it. And if you don't understand this, I'll try to explain it as simply as I can. If athletes are allowed to bet on games, how can you ever believe anything that happens in a game? Because they have the ultimate insider knowledge. You can say, I bet on my own team, so I tried real hard to win.
Especially a quarterback.
But
he controls the game.
Yeah, you're not just betting on who wins and who loses. You're betting point spreads. So you could put a lot of money on something, and the point spread
40.
You could change the point spread.
We only won by 35.
Yeah, you could do that, and people are going to say that, whether it's true or not. And so you just can't acknowledge that. It's going all the way back to, Kennesaw Mountain Landis when he was the commissioner of the Major League Baseball. Who was the guy?
Shoeless Joe?
Shoeless Joe Jackson.
1918 White Sox, I believe?
Yes.
And Red Sox.
There are people that historians to this day that say Shoeless Joe didn't do what he was accused of doing. But Kennesaw Mountain Landis just said, we're not allowing this. It'll ruin the sport. And he set the precedent, and it goes all the way up through Pete Rose and beyond. And if the pros aren't going to allow it, why the heck would college allow it? It's just you can't have it. Now, I don't believe it's going to happen. I read all the time, well, there's nothing they can do about it. Yes, there is.
They're appealing.
Yeah. Well, the first thing is the Big 12 is basically because Texas jumped in with their attorney general, who is apparently this Texas Tech big donor guy, has helped fund some of his campaigns.
Shocking.
That's a real surprise. So he's stepped in and said, if Big 12, if you try to interfere here, you're going to face a problem from the state of Texas. Well, the problem here is that the Big 12 doesn't just exist in the state of Texas. It exists in several states.
West Virginia.
And all these other states have said, well, our attorney general says no, we've got the right to do this. They've come up with a legal ruling on this. I've read it, it's too complicated for me, I'm not a lawyer, but basically says that whatever they're talking about here, that Paxton's talking about, doesn't apply to something like college athletics. And so they're going to fight this thing. And the last thing I read indicated that they would, and here's another issue. Nothing happens until he plays. Texas Tech has done nothing wrong as long as he doesn't get on the field. So it's almost going to be a showdown time. We're going to get to there, and then what are they going to do in the first game? Is he going to be in that game or not?
We're like 60 days away.
I know.
It's going to be here before you know it.
So imagine who the team they're going to play. Maybe they don't know. Now you have to.
Abilene Christian, by the way, that first game he's suspended.
We got these new rules, and I think they're in because of betting, because you have to say by Wednesday if somebody's not going to play.
There's now participation reports in the SEC. I don't know if the Big 12 has it, but probably something.
Probably does that so that people know what. If you're out there betting, you got to know whether your quarterback's going to be in the game or not. So they're going to have to say, but then that's going to leave their opponent, 2 days to figure out what they're going to do if they don't announce it before then. So it is complicated, but I just believe that basically if push comes to shove, the Big 12 is going to tell them, you play this guy and you're not eligible.
Well,
you're not eligible for anything.
And the Big 12, Mike, is mired in a circus here. I mean, hear me out. Let's say the appeal isn't resolved yet, or it does get denied and this kid's going to play. Can you imagine what it's going to look like at Big 12 Media Days? And all the attention that's going to be around that conference and that school.
I would hate to be there because that's going to dominate everything. It's by far the most interesting topic. So they're not going to be talking about the upcoming season. They're going to be talking about that issue. I don't think, and I have friends in Lubbock that are Texas Tech fans, and a few of them think this is terrible. Most of them think it's us against the world. There's always been that mentality out in Lubbock. When you go out and up around Lubbock like I did, everybody thinks you're out in the middle of nowhere and you're an idiot.
Yep.
And you don't know anything and you're stupid and you're uneducated. So they've had that chip on their shoulder their whole lives.
More small town mentality.
Yeah,
yes.
People my age have had that Texas Tech chip on their shoulder, and so they're mad. And you're against us, and this isn't fair, and all this stuff. And the ones I talk to, I go, You need to go back and understand what college athletics is all about. This is not the way to win. It's not going to work for you. And what you're going to end up doing is making an enemy out of virtually they did a graphic, and it was hilarious. I saw this graphic of the United States, and it had every state. And it said most hated team in every state. And it was Texas Tech, except in Ohio when they had Michigan. Because they hate Michigan in Ohio for Ohio State worse than they would hate Texas Tech. But the point was made. You could end up being one of the most disliked programs in the country for no reason other than you did this.
Or even look at Cody Campbell, the billionaire booster that's kind of become the face of this. He's at the front of the Save College Sports Act, and he's pushing to, pull media rights, and we have to be in this together, and it's getting out of hand. So he's trying to play the part of a martyr. Now he's hated. Now he's the villain, and it's like, hey, this guy is in it for all the wrong reasons. And even for Texas Tech to come out and say, like, hey, we're not funding this kid's lawyers or anything like that. Really? You think people are gonna buy something like that? Of course, there's an investment being made in this kid being on the field.
Absolutely.
And that's why there is so much pushback and so much litigation around it. Mike, what, in your opinion, what do you think is the most likely to happen here? And really, they're kind of all one and the same. Let's assume he does get to the field. Does this mean the SEC and the Big Ten break away? Does this mean that the NCAA dissolves? Or does this mean that Congress looks at this and says, hey, you guys actually do need help? This is kind of out of control. Again, they're sort of all one and the same, but what do you feel will be the most likely to happen?
I think the most likely to happen is if they play him, the minute they play him, the Big 12 says you're going to have to forfeit every one of these games that he plays in. They won't count. In our eyes, your record will be 0-12.
So you can't win the conference.
Yeah, you'll be 0-12, and you're not going to be in the playoffs, and you can do whatever you want. The other alternative to that is for each individual school to say, we're not playing. The week that Texas Tech comes to our stadium's going to be empty. There's going to be no game. We're not playing you.
We'll see you in court.
Yeah, they could do that. There's a lot of options available to them, but to me, the most likely scenario is that they're going to back off in the end, because if they don't, it's going to be bad for them.
And they have nowhere to go. If the Big 12 can somehow plant the flag on this and say, no, you're in our league, he can't play, and Texas Tech says, fine, we're leaving, where are they going to go? You think the SEC wants Texas Tech? Does the Big Ten want Texas Tech? Any conference, the WAC, does any conference want Texas Tech?
Nobody would want them.
No, not if they're going to play by those kind of rules.
That's right. They'd have to be an independent, and then they'd have a hard time finding people to schedule them.
That nobody wants to
schedule. So I just don't. I think they are tone deaf right now. Something's going to happen to wake them up. I don't know what it is, but
fascinating topic.
Gone wacky.
It will be monitored until this kid is officially ruled ineligible or until he gets on the field. Next up here, Hill Country Hog asks, with the Hog season done, do you actually watch the College World Series? I have friends that do, and I'm like, why? We should be there, not Oklahoma. It's too painful for me to watch. A lot of randomness in the sport that a team like Oklahoma can get hot, Mike.
Yeah, I watch it because I like Omaha, because I have memories of being there. And I even though I'm at home watching it, I feel like I'm there a little bit, and I know what it's like. It's a great thing to have all of those teams there. Those 8 teams are all there at the beginning. They have a great opening ceremony. They all get to work out on the field the day before it all starts. They get their time out there, and that venue. A lot of people got really mad when they got rid of Rosenblatt. I thought Rosenblatt was a trash place. I didn't like it. It was poorly built. It looked stupid. The field wasn't level. They built it on top of a hill, and you could stand at home plate, and I've done that. And I stood at home plate, and there were guys out walking around where the outfield is. You couldn't see a little below their knee. It was like, what is that? The field is rounded. And then they had no bullpens. You just stood out there on the third base line, and a guy had to catch the ball so a pitcher couldn't get whacked in the back of the head if somebody fouled it off. The media facilities were terrible. You were cramped in these little rooms, and you couldn't get anything done. You had to go up this rickety elevator to the press box, and then you got in there, and it was all messed up. They've just changed all of that. And the idea was, so Rosenblatt's in a nice park where people can tailgate. Okay, fine,
And there's
tailgate.
history though, whatever.
But you know what people do when they get to Omaha? They don't want to tailgate. They go to bars and restaurants. And downtown Omaha has been transformed because of that. So it helps the local economy, which you can't have the College World Series there year in and year out with the money it takes to hold that every year if you don't give something back to your community. And that's how they give something back. All those downtown businesses and hotels and restaurants make a lot of money off of it. I like it because, look, think about this. All those basketball championships and regional championships and the Final Four, the two Final Fours under Nolan that I went to, one in Seattle, one in Charlotte. All of those things, you're going different times and you're going here and down to Dallas and then up here and then over there. With Omaha, you just go to Omaha.
We're going to Omaha.
And you always know you're going to go there. And there's something about that that's different to me. I wish football would do that. I wish
Put it in the Rose Bowl every year.
or just build one. Build a. You need to have it in warm weather because people want to, they want to go where they go and they want to.
Pasadena, man.
So, yeah, or go to Florida and build it in Orlando. Find some big place out there. Everybody goes to Disney World and then they go to the national championship game out there. Do that with basketball. Find a big place and build a giant.
If it would be anywhere, it'd be in Indy in basketball. They're going to put it in one place.
But see, they keep going back and forth between we're going to play it in a football stadium. No, we don't like that. Let's play it in a basketball arena. Well, you need a hybrid. You need an actual basketball arena that's not built for football, so it doesn't have all those dead spaces, but make it hold 35,000. Can you imagine a true basketball arena that held 35,000? It would be great. Yeah, put it in Indianapolis and have it there every year. It's indoors, so nobody gets snowed on or whatever happens. And what you do is just build all kinds of restaurants and places around it where people
I like where your head's at.
have a little mall out there with places where you can go and stay indoors and not get wet and not freeze.
Or 2 years away, too, the Final Four is going to be in Las Vegas. I think that's going to be a hot ticket. And I think people are going to get out there that time of year. Early April, it's going to be 70 degrees, and they're going to be like, this is the greatest idea ever. Let's just put it here every year.
Yeah, that's another natural because you got gambling, and people like to go out there and gamble.
So usually, relatively warm.
You ever been to
that time of
Vegas?
year.
It's a fun place to go.
It's expensive.
I don't gamble, and I enjoyed it.
Waterboy, Bobby Boucher there. Anytime I hear you talk about Omaha and your love for it, I think of you in 2018. What happened? You're standing outside around first base like that was a roar. Did they win the national title? No, they didn't. In fact, it was going to be another
remember that
game.
for sure.
All right, up against a break here. We're going to be back with more with Ask Mike after a quick timeout. Back to wrap up this edition of Ask Mike. Jumping back into your questions here. Vitello now says, you keep seeing that Dave Van Horn is going to announce some big name portal transfers, and we are going to be amazed. Am I supposed to be amazed by a Tennessee relief pitcher with an ERA approaching 10? The optics on that one, not great.
Yeah. There's actually a reason behind that, and I looked into it quite a bit, and it's fascinating. This kid, Braden Krenzel, comes from an athletic family. His dad was a national championship quarterback at Ohio State in like 2002, and he was very talented, very highly recruited out of high school. And as a freshman at Tennessee, he was 3-0 with 40 strikeouts and 32 innings, really respectable ERA for a freshman in the mid-4 range. Then what happens? His head coach leaves, goes to manage the Giants, Tony Vitello. And all of a sudden, something like that, I don't know the true story there, but it clearly threw him out of whack because he went completely backwards last year and ended up with that ERA of 9. He didn't really pitch all that much. Apparently, he was struggling from the beginning, and they just kind of gave up on him. Now, here's the tip-off. They fired his pitching coach. He got fired. That's an indication of a problem there with development. I wasn't told this. I'm supposing this. I'm supposing that when that kid hit the portal, Dave Van Horn and/or Matt Hobbs called up Vitello and said, what's the story on this guy? And he told him, the kid's got talent. He just needs somebody to develop him. You're the guy that can develop him. And guess who did that last year? Matt Hobbs did the same thing with McIlvain. McIlvain was at Vanderbilt. He had an ERA of 7+, although as a freshman he pitched really well. He went backwards his sophomore year. He comes here. He ends up with an ERA of 1.88, something like that, 6-0, All-American status. and now he's going to go high enough in the draft to make himself some good money. So you can complain about this all you want, but that's already happened last year.
There's evidence that it can happen again.
And there's no reason to believe it can't happen again. And I'm willing to bet you that if we had Vitello sitting right here, right now, he would tell us that kid's got talent. I mean, he's got a strong arm. He throws mid-90s. He's got a 2-pitch mix, I was told. So maybe they'll develop another pitch for him. But he's got to refine himself a little bit. But I think it's a good pickup. The one thing I do remain concerned about is because I continue to be told, oh, they're fixing to announce this big class. And I'm going, when? What is the reason not to announce it now? And now I'm starting to hear some stuff from other sources that they still don't have the money they need, that they've gotten some guys.
If they don't have it at this point, I don't think they're going to have it.
That's right, that they've lost. I know Texas Tech went in and grabbed a guy they thought they had. So maybe, you got a problem here. This will eventually come out. If they don't have a good portal class, it's going to blow up on Eurocheck, I guarantee you, because I know how people are thinking right now. You cannot let this baseball program.
You've created a wagon. Just keep the thing on the rails.
Yeah, it's one thing we talk about it with track. If this started happening with baseball, started going south, I promise you there'd be a lot of angry people.
And there's a lot of money they'd be leaving on the table, too. That baseball stadium is full far more often than it is not. The big portal gets thus far. Zeb Allen out of UCA, the all-time record holder for the Bears in terms of home runs for a college career. And also Dawson Bryce, who was a preseason player of the year in the American, fought through some injuries this year at UNC Charlotte. He's likely going to be a corner infielder. Up next here, Popular Porkster says, name your pick to win the College World Series. What's the biggest surprise so far?
I'm going to go with who wins this game, and we're taping this on Monday. So the winner, I'm going to say, of Georgia and Oklahoma, and that's tonight, I'm going to say that the winner of that game will win it all. I think it will be Georgia. Georgia was impressive knocking off Texas 7-1. I mean, wow, that's Texas is pretty good. And then Alabama stunned Oklahoma 9-0. The biggest surprise, though, has to be Troy. And it's been fun watching. Now, I think a lot of people thought, okay, they're a 2-and-out team. Mm-hmm. They're going to come out here. They're going to get beat by West Virginia. And then they're going to go to the losers bracket, and then they're gone, and they'll just make some statements like, well, it was just fun to be here. And that's not what they're all about. They came back and they eliminated Ole Miss. So instead of Troy being the first team to hit the exit door, Ole Miss is the first team to hit the door. Now, it gets tough here because they're going to have to beat the loser of West Virginia and North Carolina to stay alive. And then if they do that, they got to beat the winner between West Virginia and North Carolina twice to get to the championship series. I think they probably run their course. We'll see what happens when they play in the losers bracket tonight, or I think it's tomorrow. Loser between West Virginia and North Carolina. They probably end up playing West Virginia again. I'm pretty impressed with North Carolina. But regardless, it's been fun watching Troy. And I wish them every success.
There's been some great stories at the College World Series that we've seen. Murray State just last year, I know that was a tremendous showcase for Gage Wood, but it's cool to see the little guys there. When I went in 2012, Stony Brook, tiny little school out of New York. Stony Brook was in the World Series. I think they had a first-round draft pick that year. Kent State was another one that Arkansas roughed up. They won a game in the World Series, too. I think they beat Florida that same year that Stony Brook was. So, yeah, the little guys. If it's not going to last in NCAA basketball, which, really outside of High Point, there wasn't a mid-major that I can remember that won a game. Maybe there was one more. Baseball kind of is that place where you could, build up some drama, get behind a little guy, and maybe there are some ways, like even Kansas, with the junior college kids, you can manufacture ways to win in that game.
Sure.
Next up here, Cajun Hog, shifting over to some college basketball. He wants to know, why can't we get the complete story on Isaiah Sealy? A knee injury, surgery required. Okay, what kind of surgery? Media websites are using this as clickbait. It's the end of things. Come on, Cal, give us the facts. Now, this only got out, for those listening here, Cajun Hog included. This only got out because the university wanted it to get out. This was not leaked. Cal was the one that came forward and say, hey, Isaiah's been great this summer, been working hard, had an unfortunate setback.
Yeah, I'm curious as to why there hasn't been any information since. I can't believe that it's this hard to figure out what the nature of this injury is. Knee injuries are usually, they're either the meniscus tear, that require surgery, because sometimes they don't even do surgery. They'll go in and just
scope, yeah.
They'll do a scope, and that's the easiest. If there's a tear that has to be repaired, that takes, what, 6 weeks? Well, if he had that, he'd be back playing by the time they got ready to start school and working out with when school started, missed some summer stuff. I tend to believe that it's a ligament tear, which is going to put him out all of next year. But it's not the death sentence that it used to be athletically. Used to be when you got a knee injury, you might not ever be the same. Jerry Eckwood was the great Razorback football player, was never the same after his knee injury. Gale Sayers, one of the greatest natural running backs of all time, was never the same after his knee injury.
His technology keeps getting better.
No, they can repair your knee better than it was before. So I know Seeley can come back from this. I feel bad for him, and I hope that he is able to play this year. But if he can't, this clickbait stuff is, I understand why the guy's frustrated, because I've read headlines that makes it look like, oh, well, it was so promising with Cal, but now they're doomed. If you looked at this lineup,
I do think maybe they don't have the big man, Mike. The depth is better though this year.
It's much better.
They've got 8 or 9 guys that can really play.
First of all, you got Billy Richmond coming back at one of those wing spots, and you got Abdul Torre and J.J. Andrews. He's the perfect guy to work with those two, to kind of give them his wisdom of his experience and work with them. And then they're going to end up probably, the last time I checked, sounded like they were about to announce a European forward center.
Russian, correct.
Yeah, a Russian guy. So if they do that, they're going to end up with 5 bigs. Well, some of those guys can play the other forward position. So Arkansas is not going to be hurting for forwards, I promise you. If ever there was a year they could survive an injury like this, this is it. Now, again, for Seeley's sake, I hope he's able to come back and play. If he's not, he might actually end up in a better situation the year after that, because they might not have the depth that they have now. So, and he'll be older and more experienced too, and he'll be around these guys even if he's not able to play. He'll be around them. He's part of the team. So, the one negative part of that is the clickbait stuff, where people are going out, because these internet websites, that's how they get people to read their stuff. Their ability to survive is based on clicks. And I don't blame them for that, but you got to put stuff on the headlines that gets, oh no, what? This is terrible. Something's ruining basketball.
And Cal's at the forefront of this. As I said, he's basically the one that broke the news. That's the head coach and taking the bull by the horns. Great job by John Calipari getting out. Nobody understands sales in sports better than John Calipari, Mike. What he did in Little Rock, talking to anybody that wanted to talk about him. Hayden Herrera went down to see him at Fort Smith. Broke some news there. Yeah, Gonzaga's coming in. Yeah, hey, don't worry. We're working on somebody else. I don't know, a neutral site game or a game at Bud Walton. We're gonna get one more quality opponent in there. So shout out to John for being very transparent. Take some time with the good media folks here. Final question of the week. Got to make it pretty quick up against it. Whippersnapper. Random summer thought here. Tommy Tuberville went into politics after coaching. What former Arkansas coach would or could made a great politician for the state of Arkansas? Frank, Nolan, Norm, somebody else? Calipari?
Yeah.
Calipari'd be great at it.
He would. If you're talking about somebody that would absolutely go in and represent the people of this state, I'm going to go with Mike Anderson, and here's why. He was the most straight-up, honest coach I've ever been around in my life. Some of the people around him, people on his staff, I remember one guy in particular told me, he said, this guy is so honest that he won't even violate rules that are not rules. He has his own set of rules in his head.
Code of ethics, Mike Anderson.
Yeah, code of ethics. Don't do this. And even if it's not in the NCAA rule book, he won't do it. His big failing was in recruiting, and he would go to a guy that was being recruited by a lot of big-name out-of-state schools, and he would say, look, I don't want to drive you crazy and pressure you if you don't want to come here. If you're interested in us, we're very interested in you. But if you're really looking to get out of state, and some kids do, then just tell me, and I won't bother you. And he lost some guys like that. Now, he would have lost them anyway, and that's the whole point. But that's the kind of guy he was. And to me, if you go represent the people of Arkansas, whether it's in Little Rock or you went to the Congress or whatever, if you've got their best interest in mind and you're honest, you're going to do the right thing. Yeah. So I'd go with Mike Anderson. Mr. Honest.
I like that. Mike was great, too, with kind of the politicking and the presentation aspect of it and being able to, play to different crowds. But, yeah, you can't go wrong with it. Frank, Houston Nutt. Dave Van Horn.
You think about the pressure he was under, because when he got hired, people thought he was Nolan again. And he's not Nolan. They're different guys just because he coached under Nolan. And he had to deal with that every single day.
And from a basketball standpoint, yeah, I know it was a little bit disappointing. It wasn't quite the glory days they were expecting from the early 90s. But got the program in a better spot, cleaned some things up. They brought in Musselman, and Musselman allowed them to get caps.
That's right.
It all kind of worked out. He's Mike Irwin. That's going to do it for this week's Ask Mike.